can you tell me what you're seeing right now in the Windsor market? Because, for example, here, entry level investment grade properties that we always focus on, starter category. There's anything that we're interested in looking at or showing our clients. There's multiple offers on it, like
Got it.
three,
Yeah.
four, nine offers. What are you guys seeing anything similar in Windsor? It's
Yeah.
February 2nd. It's still early,
Yeah,
but
not a ton of multiples, but even for example, Matt had a property he was personally selling, and him and another partner, they were they were selling it. They received multiples on it, but it's not like multiples like where it's going way above ask. So you're still getting in the entry level market. You're still getting activity there for sure. I just saw some stats come out for this past month. In the past, for January, the numbers did bump, by like I think it was 30 grand or something for average home price. So even though we, sort of took a bit of a dive, it kind of popped there for a little bit. So who knows if that'll keep up. So, if you're looking for like single family entry level homes, I think there's still enough competition where you're not seeing the action is with more of your like higher end. So luxury homes, of course, are sitting a whole lot longer. Some investment properties but to be honest, not too many, because I really think it's a different clientele who, are in the investment space. So, there's still a lot of action. We haven't seen the price per door come down a whole lot with the investment properties, but you're just seeing some properties sit maybe a little longer than they were over the past couple of years.
right. Well, you mentioned that you just recently bought a 9 unit. Have you been looking to buy some small multis this whole time during this correction?
Yeah, we are always on the lookout, and with this particular property, we really liked it. The location being one,
Hmm.
in small town, it was really tidy. It's probably going to be the nicest building in our portfolio, to be honest. Back when we started, we were sort of, we'd look for the ugly ducklings that are out there that nobody else wanted,
Hmm.
and we'd get them for a good price. But then with that comes lots of added capital ongoing, and until you've completely sort of fixed it up and are able to refi it. So with this property, it's actually in like great shape. The seller, had it up for a while, since the spring, and they had a couple offers that were accepted and conditional, and then fell through for financing and other reasons. And we just kept on it with the selling agent, and we were trying to be super creative. I remember back, we were at Cedar Point. It's kind of like Canada's Wonderland, but for Windsorites who go to Ohio instead of to Toronto to go on all the rides. And I'm standing in line having a conversation via text with this agent. That was back in August, and we were on the phone all day every day for a good couple of weeks, and just couldn't get it together. And then finally they came back to us a couple months after and said, hey, the latest offer fell through, and we made it work. So
Hmm.
we got some really favorable terms that are favorable on both sides. We figured out what the sellers wanted and what they needed, like why they were selling, like what's their goal. And once we knew that goal, we were able to come up with something that made both sides, like made it make sense for both
Hmm.
sides. So that one's going to be a JV deal, and our investors really excited about it as well, and we're extremely excited about it to add such an awesome building to the portfolio.
What about the negotiation and the offer that made it attractive to the seller, and then what for yourselves?
Yeah, for us, we obviously want the tough part in real estate, and really in anything, is it comes down to price. Everyone gets fixated on price. So what I try to do, and this is maybe the math background that comes in, but also a little bit of the creativity, is I try to figure out, okay, so if you were to get that money, like what are you going to do with it? And for them, they just wanted to put it into some sort of safe investment. They were just done. They had reached an age of retirement, and they just wanted to be done with the, like, I think as you get older, you just don't want any concerns. Like, not that it was causing them any problems, but they just didn't want to own a rental property any longer. And,
Yeah, they're
so
probably gonna put
I,
the money into a GIC or something.
exactly. So they were basically looking to cash out, and they were making a significant amount in terms of the, sweat equity that had grown, and ghost equity, whatever you want to call it, just from appreciation, that they were just going to take that and put it into something super safe to just spit out a really easy fixed return. I said, well, you know what? Why don't we pay you that? And guess what? Imagine a world where if we don't follow through, that you get to take back your property. And, when they started to get their wheels turning about this, going like, wait a second, the asset, we know it's ours. We own it right now. We've owned it for 20 years. So they know everything about this thing. They put nothing but love and care into this thing. Can we find a price that would work where instead of us going to the bank, we go to you? So we looked at a vendor take back, and we got really creative to make sure the numbers worked, because I said, I don't care what the price on paper is. What I need are for these numbers to make sense, which is how much money is going to be coming out of this property. And, when I propose some different various scenarios, which, I won't dig into here, we were able to come to terms and essentially meet in the middle so that everybody was happy. And really, at the end of the day, they've got a better situation than, say, a GIC, because it's like it's backed against something that ultimately they get to take back, plus keep the down payment if if we weren't to follow through on our side of things.
Right. They get the security of the property versus believing the government's going to pay them back.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's worked so far, but who knows, right?
Can you share what the terms were of the VTB?
It was really good terms. We managed to get 3% interest only for 5 years. And it was on 70% loan to value. So we were able to really make this work. And also, we talked about, the turbulent markets and the uncertainty of interest rates and all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And, and they were, that allowed us also to bring the price point up, which, we had conversations as well around, like, I'm like, actually, it probably makes sense for the price point to go down and us to pay you more interest, but, whatever, we don't need to talk about that. But yeah, they were happy with that, and they were happy to sort of quote unquote move on. And when you actually when you actually look at the numbers on their front, on their end, they're going, like, we could pay off this mortgage that they had on it, and they could essentially do better in terms of cash flow than they were doing having owned the property, at least given the numbers that they were working with. Right. So it's like, at the end of the day, it's like we made it. Exactly completely passive. Where they lose out is they don't get any sort of appreciation potential. Right. So, I mean, that's what you're losing in this exchange. But, when I'm turning 40 this year, and they're, turning 65, it's like we have very different, sort of needs and wants for why this investment. So again, being creative and having experience to be able to have these conversations and go, okay, well, just because we can't see eye to eye right now, maybe there's an opportunity for us to work together and essentially make sure that everybody gets what they wanted in the long run, right? And that really worked well for this particular deal.
In my experience, the challenge with VTBs often is the selling agent. They have to understand VTBs themselves. Usually folks from the commercial world, it's not a problem. If they have a regular residential realtor, usually it's not something they've ever covered before. So then it's really hard to have those conversations. Were you speaking directly with the seller, or were you going through their agent?
And that was the challenge. I had proposed a number of times to get the actual sellers to the table, and we'd all be there. Matt was our representation on the buying side, so that's always a benefit as well. So I spoke with the selling agent quite a bit to ensure that there was clarity there. We did a lot of three-way calls, so I'm involved in that whole process, but we never had access to the actual seller. And I wonder if this could have happened a whole lot sooner had that been the case. So as I mentioned, it was on since spring. We kicked tires in June, and then by August, we had been through the property, and all of this process had happened. But again, no blame here or anything like that. But I do wonder if we all sat down and just had an open conversation, like everyone's cards are on the table. Like
Mhm.
I'm all about being transparent. Like we're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. We want to tell you exactly what we're trying to do. And if you tell us more about what you want to do, then that gives us something to work with so we can maybe make this thing happen. And I think in real estate, that's one thing Matt brings to the real estate world is he's super creative. He also is like really good at reading people and trying to sort of get to the bottom of like, okay, what do we really want here? So him and I work really well in that capacity. So
Mhm.
it's really great that now he's on our team instead of us working through an agent like we used to have to do a number of years ago when we first began.
All right. Yeah. Again, if the agent's not well versed in this, way more challenging versus if it
Mm-hmm.
was my listing, I would have involved my seller's lawyer and accountant
Mm-hmm.
all at the same time in a discussion with the buyer if I felt comfortable with my seller being there.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Just so we can all be on the same page and my client when the seller can get professional advice from both the tax perspective and from a legal perspective.
Yeah,
Is their VTB safe? And also tax implications, which are generally very favorable of giving vendor take back mortgages.
for sure. For sure. Yeah. And I think as well, like knowing what also just frames it differently for the seller to even consider setting up a meeting like that. Because like
Yeah.
if you can't articulate to your seller why this might be a good conversation to have, right? If you're not fully clear yourself,
Yeah.
they might just be opposed to it right away. So
Well,
yeah,
I'm
that's
coming
definitely important.
if I'm representing the seller, I'm trying to get more money from you.
Yeah, totally.
which I'll be able to get with the VTB.
Sure. Totally. Yeah.
Right? So
Maximize for everyone.
It's a win.
Right? I mean,
Win for my client.
exactly. I mean,
Right?
that's
It's
your
a win
goal.
for you guys to get the deal done
Yep.
and keeping your
For sure.
financing costs low. Right?
For sure.
Yeah. Wonderful. Good story.
Yeah.